All right, let's do re-O-ringing G.I. Joes, vintage G.I. Joe. So it's actually pretty easy. It's a lot better than trying to reband Masters of the Universe figures. You can get abundant amounts of O-rings on eBay or wherever. That's the best way to do it because you just get exactly what you need, the right size. And then some sellers sell, you can get, some sellers sell the replacement screws and stuff if you want. I want to try to keep the vintage screws, so if the screw's rusty, I put it in a little vinegar bath and we'll leave that overnight and let it neutralize the rust, make it look a little bit better. So there's the O-ring we need. Some people say give it a stretch so it won't provide more tension than needed on the figure, like it's going to damage it or something, but I really doubt that. Anyways, so got the figure already busted at the O-ring. So you've got the legs. Okay, so this figure has some rusty screws, and there's 3 screws in the vintage G.I. Joe figures, one on each inner thigh, and then one in the back. So if you want to re-O-ring it, you have to take the back screw out. If the legs are loose, I've seen some people go in, unscrew this leg, and go in with plumber's sealing tape or filament or whatever it's called. That's not the case here. I just want to, since I'm taking out the back screw and it's rusty too, I'm going to soak it all in vinegar. So I'm going to take these screws out. And just let them soak. I'm not going to fully disassemble the leg. I don't really feel the need to for these guys. The legs are fine on mine. So I got me a little cup. I like to keep the screws with the same figure. Probably shouldn't matter. They're probably universal screws. I mean, well, obviously they were in a manufacturing plant or whatever. But a couple things on this figure. This Cobra symbol right here is one that's easily worn off, so I want to be mindful of that when I'm dealing with this guy. But so most figures, though, you just get a secure hold on the torso here, and you want to make sure you got a good screwdriver that's going to go down in there, Phillips head screwdriver that's not going to scratch on the sidewalls of that hole. So then just very carefully break the screw loose. Usually it's not an issue, even if the screw's rusty. So there we go. We got our screws ready to soak. So I'm going to put a little white vinegar in there and let that soak overnight. And then now, most of the time you can just pull it apart. I noticed this figure is a little bit tight. So because I did one more of these guys of the his tank driver, you can just take your needle nose and slowly expand the needle nose. Yeah, if it's a really tight chest cavity, you can just gently with the needle nose kind of, oh, there it goes, break it loose. And so there's the old O-ring, very old and deteriorated. Get that out of there. So we got all our parts disassembled and ready for whenever those screws are done. We'll continue, but the next step, we can go ahead and do that, is the O-ring just hooks right in the hook of the legs. So there we go. All right, I got a bunch of the screws soaking, so it's been overnight. So we'll see how well the screws came out for this his tank driver, the one that I was working on. All right, got the screws out. They look a lot better, less corrosion on there. So we had our O-ring on the legs. So now we gotta carefully get it through the crotch piece. So you get the O-ring started up in there, and I find it's best to grab it with the O-ring with the needle nose, and then you got to carefully work it up through there. You shouldn't have to pull hard to get it past. You don't want the hook to break the crotch piece, so it will slide past. You just got to manipulate it, work with it a little bit. Be sure you don't accidentally break the crotch piece though. So once you got it all the way, the legs all the way seated, the O-ring actually kind of like holds everything in place now. And some sellers sell for the 1982 through 1984 figures, I think they sell like thinner O-rings, and that's because in the chest cavity they say it helps like that there's less room in the chest cavities for the older figures. But this is pretty much the same size that came out of it, I've noticed. So basically, if you put the back piece inside the waist area at a bit of an angle, it'll kind of naturally stay in place, but you want to maintain positive control because it will slingshot out if you're not careful. So once you got that in there, you see you have the O-ring looped around the back where the screw hole is. Then you get your arms in, make sure you get them in correctly. And I found that you just hang the arms in basically, and it makes contact with the O-ring, so that it actually works as a little rubber gasket to hold it in place actually, so that the arms will stay there, and then the head usually will stay. Now when you get to the newer figures that had the ball joint heads with more articulation, it gets harder, the head might fall out. So once you got that, you got to just kind of get this situated, and you'll have to kind of like twist the body up just a little bit to get it down where it needed to be, to where it aligns properly. And then once I've got it aligned, and I need to be careful with this figure because of that cobra symbol, I like to manipulate the arms and the head and make sure everything just sits down and aligns. So once you've got it all the way on, it pretty much won't come undone right here. So you can be careful and get your back screw in. Just want to snug it, and you're good to go. And then, oh yeah, I had removed the leg screws, so the inner thigh, be careful, make sure the screw is starting properly. You shouldn't have to have too much resistance screwing it in until the end. Some of the figures are tough, like the 1982, like that. I did a rock and roll, and it was really hard to get the leg screws back in. It was probably because of the design, I don't know, but I couldn't get the screw started properly, it seemed like. So those are snug. So then there you go. Now you got a figure that has nice tight joints, and you see the arbs stay up and everything, so should last another 40 years.